Do you have unwanted habits you'd like to get rid of? Are you suffering from anxiety? Are you plagued by self-doubt? Then this is the episode for you. Stay tuned. Welcome, everybody. I'm Scott Patton, your host, and this is the free-ebooks.net series on the super stacks for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And if you've been following along, we've had a bunch of amazing guests. We've been talking about all sorts of things from crypto to writing to creating content, creating these super cool reels for Facebook and Instagram. So it's been a huge variety of topics that we've covered. And today, I think, is the one that I'm the most excited about because my guest has written a number of books, and I actually have a couple of the titles here. And just listen if these are not intriguing and make you want to go get them. She's the author of Being Human, The Little Book of Big Change, The No Willpower Approach to Breaking Any Habit. Yes. And Just a Thought, a no willpower approach to end self-doubt and make peace with your mind. So I'm really excited. She's got an amazing product in the Women's Confidence Super Stack. We're going to get to that in a minute. But right now, I'm going to bring on Dr. Amy Johnson. Hi, Dr. Johnson. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Scott. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you on. And I want to dive right into habits and anxiety and self-doubt. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit about your story, a little bit about how you got into this area.
Yeah, well, let's see. I grew up with a lot of anxiety. I was kind of a nervous kid, an anxious kid. Everyone said I was in my head all the time, and I had a lot of little nervous habits and separation anxiety and that kind of stuff. I was happy enough kid, but I certainly wasn't carefree and free like little kids should be all the time. So from the time I was young, really, I was really fascinated with psychology and how we work and, just kind of what's going on behind the scenes. So I really kind of knew even from a really young age that I would grow up and study this stuff and find some answers. And that's what I've been doing for the last lot of years.
Neat. I love when you say the no willpower way, because anytime I want to make any change, it's, and I'm just like, and it might last for 10 minutes. It might last for half an hour, but then it's like, forget this, too much work, because I'm constantly then having to watch myself and everything along those lines. So how do we So in your opinion, how do we make long-lasting change without, having I had an image of like Guido, this big Italian looking over, no more pizza for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because it feels like such a battle. We get into such a battle. We hear our mind talk, we feel our feelings and our desires want things and pull us in directions and, suggest things. And then we eat the pizza and we feel amazing. And we think, oh, it's because this pizza is so good and I'm never going to stop. And all of that stuff. It's such a interesting sort of illusion that gets created. But what I've seen and what I kind of share at the root of all this is that our essence, the essence of all human beings, all the time, no exceptions, is one of peace and common sense and, moderation, if you want to use that word, where we just naturally kind of eat when we're hungry, stop when we're full, partake, for a little while, step back. We rest when we are tired. We naturally want to get up and jump around when we're kind of antsy and we need some activity out. So life kind of lives us. We are designed to do this stuff very, very naturally in a way that is completely healthy. Now, what happens is our mind starts talking and we start to get kind of caught up in like, oh, I think I did a little bit too much pizza, or a little bit, not enough exercise, or a little bit too much anger. I shouldn't feel that much anger, or I shouldn't have done this so much. And our mind starts talking to us and we start to get really identified with our mind. And I use these little teeth when I teach a lot, because it's like this little narrator in our head that's constantly saying, not enough, too much, not good enough, more, less, now, later. It's very black and white, very judgmental in that way. So as we grow up and we get really identified with all of this and all of that judgment, it starts to feel like our only option is to battle this. So like you're saying, when the narrator's over here saying, more pizza, you deserve it. You had a rough week. Just go ahead. It's no big deal. You can eat healthy on Monday. We're listening to this and we're so identified with it. And then we're like, yeah, but that's not really what I want. And then we're like, no, I'm not going to start Monday. And like, it becomes such a battle. And when there's a battle, it's our mind spinning, kind of talking to itself. It's like a dog chasing its own tail. So when people start to see how this works, that our mind will just talk in all those black and whites and try to get us to do things, but that thoughts come and go. The narrator comes and goes. This thing, you can wind it up, but pretty soon it's going to stop chattering. That's how our experience works. And when we come to see that, we don't get as engaged in the battle, and thoughts and feelings come and go, and we just don't feel as compelled to get as wrapped up in them.
So I see. I'm hearing this voice, but I don't have to identify it as being me.
Yeah, it's not you. And that's really what we kind of explore, rather than having it sort of as a technique about the voice, which is fine. And that could be super helpful. Like, the voice isn't us. The voice is our brain that is just survival based, and it has to be very efficient, black or white. It always wants more or less. It's always talking about what's coming later. And there's tons of good reasons for that, evolutionary reasons for that.
Right.
It's all based on our survival.
We used to worry about saber-toothed tigers, right?
Exactly. So as people really kind of come to wake up to that a little bit, the relationship with this really starts to change.
Oh, cool. So what would be like the first step on this journey?
I think often the first step is waking up to this voice. Like, we all kind of know it, and probably the audience listening here is more familiar than the average person off the street.
Right.
But at the same time, like, we kind of know that our thoughts aren't true, and we kind of know probably that they're not ours and all of that. Yet we still go through life for the most part just doing whatever our mind tells us to do. We really do. We still kind of, I always say, it's like we have this helmet on and we don't even know we have a helmet on, and there's all kinds of directions and stuff being thrown around in that helmet, and we're just following it. So to really wake up and notice, wow, I am before language. Like, our essence is before language, before thought, before preferences. It's this formless energy, and all of that language and preferences and everything the narrator says, that is a survival based brain doing its job perfectly. And as we start to recognize that more, it gets a little easier to kind of see it for what it is.
Sort of like the taxi driver, and you don't give him directions and he just drives around the city.
Yeah.
And then when you wake up and say, well, I'm not really going where I want to go, so maybe I should tell the taxi driver, head over there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So does this apply equally to like habits?
Yeah, it's really everything. Habits, like the way I think of anxiety and lack of confidence and self-doubt and all of that, is just habitual thought. And so habits are just habitual behavior,
Very habitual, yeah.
Very habitual, right? So just like our mind, we wake up and our mind starts saying like, oh, who do you think you are? And I hope you don't mess up at work today, and whatever it says. That's all just habitual narration that runs. And then we say, oh, I have low self-esteem. You don't really have low self-esteem. You just have a mind that talks on repeat and you're believing it. You think it's you. And with habits, it's the same, So I used to have a food-related habit. I had bulimia, and my mind would wake up and it would tell me all of this stuff. It would catalog what I ate the day before, what I should have eaten, what I should eat today. And I just didn't have the separation to know, oh, that's just a brain repeating. That's just what a mind does. I thought
Right.
I wanted those things. I thought this was personal. So this is a huge thing to see that what our mind says, even though it's talking about us, it's not personal. It's like a machine, really. Just it's no more personal than your
Um,
heartbeat is personal. If you have heart disease, that doesn't mean anything about you. It's just what the state of your heart. It's the same with the brain.
right. Wow. I was married to a lady who had anorexia.
Mhm.
And as you're describing, the way you were just describing the way the mind works was,
Yeah.
and I was thinking of her when we were in like our 20s and 30s and how her mind worked. And you just described it perfectly. She'd have all this stuff going on in her mind.
Yeah.
And then it was just totally convincing her that in this case, she was fat and
Yeah.
she was as skinny as a beanpole. I mean, there was no fat on her.
Yeah.
And it was really, really difficult for her to change that. And I wish you'd been around 35 years ago.
Yeah. It is. It's so
Listen
hard
to
to change.
Amy. Listen to Amy.
It's tough, and it's tough to watch someone go through that because the reality is that they're in is not the reality. And the interesting thing is they know the reality they're in is not the reality in their finer moments. When her mind could settle down, like everyone knows, we know whatever addiction or disorder we're caught up in, we know that's not our nature and that it doesn't have to be that way, but we get so identified with all the directives and all the judgments that we don't see a way out. And with a lot of this stuff, with many habits, our mind is saying, like, this is what'll make you okay. Just lose a little bit more weight, just
Right.
drink a little bit more, just,
Eat a
decide to
little
stop
bit
next
less.
month, eat a little bit less. And that's compelling. It gives us like this, it looks like there's some light on the horizon. We're like, okay, well, maybe that will work. And again, we're all going through this in various ways, even in little ways like, oh, if I just make more money, then I'll be happy. If I can just find the right relationship, then I'll be okay.
Right.
And our mind says that stuff constantly, and everyone's does. I mean, this is a universal function of a mind. And that's what I
Right.
think people don't really get, is because it feels very personal, of course.
It's
So we
only
don't
me.
see,
Everybody else is
yeah, we think
fine.
it's just us, right? So we don't really see, oh no, this has nothing to do with you. This is just how a mind talks.
When you were talking about money, you reminded me of a friend of mine who sold shampoo, and he would net $18,000 or $19,000 a month
Wow.
from
A lot of
right,
shampoo.
a lot of shampoo. Yeah, he was so good at what he did, and his problem is he spent $25,000 personally a month, right?
Yeah.
So he took some courses, some personal development courses, and I didn't see him for 3, 4, 5, 6 months from when he told me his problem to when the next time I saw him, because I didn't have I don't know what to do when you're making that kind of money and you're spending that kind of money. So, but then we got together again about 6 months later, and he said, Scott, he said, I made $12,000 last month. And I go, oh no, you're down 8,000. And he goes, no, it's great. He said, I saved 6. So whatever it was with his mind, it changed, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things that, one of the messages that you have for everybody too is you may be in this state of self-doubt or anxiety or a bad habit or habits, but you don't have to stay there.
Yes, I love that. And minds are always changing. And that's a perfect example. I mean, I don't know the specifics with him, but it's like people have insights. People wake up and say, wow, like, look at what I'm doing. And it doesn't make sense. And with support, and that's like what my course and other, teachers do, like we can help you kind of have, like to call it a sea change. It's like suddenly you just see something new and nothing has to change in your life, but everything looks different. Like when someone wakes up and says like, oh my gosh, I realize these aren't my thoughts. This is just my mind telling me I'm this and that, or telling me what to do. that can lead to some really big insights. And when someone has an insight like that, it's like you see life in a different way, and that makes behavior change natural. That's the antithesis to willpower. He didn't need to willpower himself to save a bunch of money anymore. If he really saw
No.
how crazy what he was doing was, and wow, I can save $6,000 a month, then it's like the behavior just follows.
Yeah, and I think that he was trying to willpower it and then failing, which just made it worse for him, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was really cool. So, are there any stories that you want to share about people that you've worked with and sort of the changes that occurred in their life?
Yeah, there's many. So let's see. So there's a many, again, most of the people I work with are either coming to me for habits or for anxiety. And what I love about this work, and this is what's shared in the Little School of Big Change, is we just look at how things are already naturally happening. It isn't about like, oh, anxiety's wrong and we need to look at it differently and we need to make it show up differently. When someone is suffering with anxiety, all that's happening is, their mind is racing and their body is following suit. So our mind gets all revved up and our body just follows. And we say, oh no, I hate this feeling. This shouldn't be happening. But with understanding, I can't say enough about, truly, it's just a new perspective. It's insight. It's understanding what's going on. The same thing can be happening, but we experience it totally differently. So many, many people with anxiety I've worked with, they come in and they're so afraid of their feelings. And I know this feeling because I had that too, where you feel the little bit of anxiety starting to ramp up, or maybe you start to hyperventilate a little bit. And then all of a sudden your mind oh no, this is another panic attack or whatever it is. And you feel it start to ramp up really quickly. But again, physically, mentally, emotionally, all of that can be happening. But when someone has been studying this, looking in this direction a little bit, and then they start to feel that, and then they think, oh, this is safe. This is just my mind. This is just these chattering teeth all revved up. They're going to settle down. Everything comes down on its own. Oh, my feelings. Yeah, that's safe. There's like a relaxation that happens. And it's such a rush for people who have been struggling with anxiety for a long time, as you can imagine, because we're so afraid, or we're so used to being so afraid of our experience. And everything feels like a fight and a battle. And oh no, I hope this doesn't show up and ruin my day. And people get to a point where they're like, any feeling can show up. Bring it on. A little racing heart, that's fine. I can handle a racing heart. Or a little hyperventilation, no big deal. If that happens, I'll be fine. And of course, when that's their mindset, when they're saying, bring it on, if it comes on, it just doesn't matter. It's not anxiety whatsoever. And I had that experience as my anxiety was leaving me, was that my body and my mind would still do a lot of the same stuff. My mind would still say, oh no, is this a panic attack? And my body would start to get a little extra energy. But I just was like, oh yeah, that's happening right now. Because again, we had this insight into kind of how the narrator talks and how everything that shows up truly is safe, except for our mind telling us it isn't. So I've seen that with
Very
a
cool.
lot with anxiety, and similar with habits. I won't go through a whole story there, but just that desire for alcohol, food, working, too much internet, whatever it is, we feel that pull, but there's a little bit of space where someone can see like, oh, I see what's happening. My mind's pulling me
Right.
there. Let me just hang out in this feeling for a minute. And that's the thing we never do. We almost never just hang out in a feeling. We jump into action. We do what our mind says. So as we explore this, our mind starts to settle down so that we feel the ability to just hang out and feel stuff. And then what do you know? The stuff we feel, it comes and it goes. It's gone before you know it.
That's brilliant. Actually, I was thinking about a couple times when I felt a little anxious, just recently, although it wasn't like a major thing or anything, but like a little bit of anxiety. And you're right. Like I feel this anxiety, and then it's like I gotta go do something, right? I'm not
Yeah.
gonna just sit there and go, wow, yeah, I'm feeling kind of anxious and be
Right.
with it. It's like, no, get away. And
Yeah.
that when you fight it, it makes it worse.
Yes. And when you're curious about it, and you're like, okay, let me just feel this. And the way I do that for myself is like, I'd go into the physical sensations. Like, what does this anxiety even feel like? And as I explored, I'm like, oh, this is just some fluttering in my stomach, or it's just a little chest heaviness or whatever. You start to really feel into it and you're welcoming it. Like, okay, come on along if you want to. It's like it doesn't know what to do. It's like, oh, I'm out of here. She's not fighting me, or he's not pushing me away. I'm
Right.
leaving.
Sort of like the bully. They say, if you stand up to a bully, then they're just like, well, I'll go find someone else to bully because
Exactly.
this is too much work.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, that's
Yeah.
really cool. Well, what I'd like to do now is talk about the Little School of Big Change right after this. All right. So I brought up here it is, the Little School of Big Change. It's part of the info stack, and I'll put the link to that in the comments for you so everyone can go there and get it. The info stack's absolutely amazing. And so tell us about the Little School of Big Change and how it came about.
Yeah. So the Little School of Big Change just celebrated its 5th birthday. So I
Oh,
created this course 5 years ago, on the heels of my book, The Little Book of Big Change. So the Little Book of Big Change did really well. People were loving it. And I was talking a lot one-on-one with people and really wanted to build a community around it. So that's what the school is. So the school consists of several short video lessons, and it's me really walking people through kind of what we've been sharing, that we are healthy and wise and peaceful at our essence, that the only time we're ever suffering or caught up in anxiety or habits is because our narrator is just habitual and we're identified with it. So we really look at how safe and how protective the brain is, how everything it does is for us. We just misunderstand that. We think, oh, my brain's too loud or too fast or too compulsive or whatever. And it never truly is. Everything it's doing is for our benefit. And when we aren't resisting that and we aren't afraid of it, it really starts to settle down, and we see that. So the lessons in the Little School of Big Change walk people through this from the beginning to the end. I mean, we really start slow, and they're very like professionally recorded lessons that really kind of lead you through this understanding so that you have your own insights, so that you start to realize that your experience is safe and how your mind works and all of that. In addition to the lessons, there are some animations, which I love because I think the animations are just fun, but people get so much from them. It's like, this is a little heavy. It's really pretty profound kind of spiritual, psychological content. So to
right.
do it in cartoon form that's like 2 minutes long, people love that. They're
That
kind of
sounds fun.
relaxed and then they really see it. It's like, oh, it's that simple. There's also some longer conversations with some colleagues of mine. So like world-class psychiatrists, psychologists, they're in here talking about habits and anxiety. So it's a really jam-packed, like phenomenal course, and you get lifetime access to it. So people go through it as much as they want at their own pace, and they just get so much from it.
Awesome. And it's one of a huge super stack out for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Tomorrow's the last day. So if you're watching this and it's
Yes.
past November's over, then you're going to have to go to Amy's site.
Find me separately, but the stack is amazing. If you
But it
get
just
this
doesn't
while the
stop.
stack is available, oh my gosh, so much.
It's really amazing, and it's great value. I've interviewed a number of people that are in this stack and in some of the other stacks, and like yourself, I mean, they're just wonderful people with full hearts that want to be of service to their fellow beings here, which is great.
Yeah.
And so get the super stack. The link is in the comments below, and then make sure you start with the little school of big change.
Yeah.
And so, Amy, one of the things that we do, and I never remember to tell anybody beforehand, which makes it even better, is we end with a tip So you're going to get 10 seconds because I have a little video. And then when we come back, just on anything you want for living a great life.
All right.
Here we go. And today's tip.
Oh man, the pressure. Today's tip, let's see, is really, I think it's what we were just talking about in terms of just feeling what's arising. No feeling is wrong. No feeling is too much. No feeling is not supposed to be here. Anything that's arising, and that goes for thoughts too. Any thought, any feeling that shows up in your experience is showing up to be seen, to be experienced, and then to move on. And we spend so much time pushing it away that we don't let it move on. So just welcome and be curious about and look toward anything that's showing up. It's here for you.
That was beautiful. Thank you. That was really nice. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate you. Make sure you check out the Superstack and head over also to www.free-ebooks.net. You can get 5 ebooks free a month. And our mission is to connect readers with new authors, because I don't know about you, but I'm tired of going into chapters and seeing the same old authors and never anything different. And so that's our goal, is to expose you to some amazing authors. We have over 40,000 authors now and well over 80,000 books. So just about anything you want, you'll be able to find. And so, Amy, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you too. And I've learned a lot, and hopefully we'll, and if you ever want to talk about one of your books, let me know, because we'd love to have you on and talk about your experience writing your book and then what your book's about. Because, and I mean, it doesn't have to be a free book on free-ebooks.net for us to talk about it.
Awesome.
And,
I would love to.
All right.
Cool.
So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye
Thank
for now.
you.